Take it. It's all there.
How do I know it's safe?
You have my word.
Your word?
The billionaire left a $5 tip to test the waitress. What she said rewrote his will. The morning sun cut through the greasy windows of Martha's diner like a judgment, illuminating every crack in the vinyl booths and every stain on the linoleum floor. It was the kind of place where coffee came in chipped mugs and dreams came to die, situated on a forgotten stretch of highway between nowhere and nothing. Thomas Whitmore had chosen it deliberately. At 73, with a fortune that could buy small countries and a terminal diagnosis that gave him 6 months at best, Thomas had developed a peculiar hobby, testing people. Not with questionnaires or interviews, but with moments, small revealing moments that stripped away pretense and exposed character. He'd tested his children this way and found them wanting. He'd tested his colleagues and discovered vultures. Now, sitting in this decrepit diner at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, he was testing a waitress named Claire. She approached his table with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd walked these floors 10,000 times. Her blue uniform faded from too many industrial washes. Her name tag slightly crooked. Mid-30s, Thomas guessed, with tired eyes that still managed to be kind. "Morning," she said, flipping open her notepad. "Coffee? Please. Black. And 2 eggs, over easy with wheat toast. Coming right up." She moved to leave, then paused, noticing his hand shaking as he tried to fold his newspaper. "You okay there?" Thomas waved her off. "Old age. It's not for cowards." She smiled, a real smile, not the customer service variety. "My grandpa used to say the same thing." Over the next 40 minutes, Thomas observed her with the same intensity he'd once applied to merger negotiations. Claire refilled his coffee without being asked. When a trucker at the counter became belligerent about his overcooked hash browns, she diffused the situation with humor and a fresh plate, absorbing his anger without passing it along to the kitchen staff. When an elderly woman fumbled with her wallet at the register, Claire quietly covered the 30-cent shortfall from her own pocket. The breakfast crowd thinned. Thomas left 2 20s on his $11 tab, a generous tip by any standard but not extraordinary. Then he drove exactly 1 mile down the highway, parked at a gas station and walked back. The real test was about to begin. He re-entered Martha's diner at 8:15 a.m., disguised minimally, different jacket, baseball cap, reading glasses. The transformation was enough that Claire, busy wiping down tables, didn't recognize him. He took a different booth and ordered just coffee. Then he watched the previous table, his table. Claire approached it with her tray, clearing plates and wadded napkins. She found the 2 20s. Thomas saw her glance toward the door, as if hoping to catch him and confirm he hadn't made a mistake. Then she saw the receipt, saw that he'd meant it, and her face registered something between gratitude and guilt. She walked to the register, rang in his bill, and pocketed her tip, $29. But that wasn't the test. 10 minutes later, a man in a cheap suit entered, Lawrence, Thomas's private investigator, playing his role. He sat at the booth Thomas had vacated and made a show of searching his pockets, then looking under the table and seats. Claire noticed immediately. "Can I help you find something?" "I was sitting here earlier," Lawrence said, his voice carrying just enough anxiety. "I think I left some money, $40. My medication money. I'm an idiot. I just set it down while I was eating and forgot it." Thomas watched Claire's face carefully. This was it, the moment that would reveal everything. $40. He was claiming more than he'd left, and she knew it. She'd found only $40 total, and 29 of it was legitimately hers. The diner had no cameras. Thomas had confirmed this. The morning manager was in the back, smoking. There were no witnesses except the universe. Claire looked at Lawrence for a long moment. Thomas saw the calculation happen behind her eyes, not whether to return money that wasn't his, but how to navigate the discrepancy with grace. "Sir," she said carefully, "I did find some money at that table, but I need to be honest with you. It was $40 total, and I believe some of it was meant as a tip for me. My customer left 2 20s on an $11 check." Lawrence pressed his advantage. As scripted. No, I left $40. I'm sure of it. I had 2 20s for my pills." Thomas held his breath. Claire's jaw tightened. I understand you need medication money, but I can't give you what's not yours. I'll tell you what. She pulled out her own wallet and extracted $11 in crumpled bills. The meal was $11. If someone left 2 20s, that means my tip was $29. But I'll split the difference with you. Here's $20. That's almost what you said you lost. She held out the money, her hand steady despite the tremor in her voice. But I won't lie and say you left $40 when someone else paid $40 for an $11 meal. That money paid for food and tipped for service. Those are two different things. Lawrence, surprised by the script deviation, glanced toward where Thomas sat. Thomas gave the slightest shake of his head. You know what? Lawrence said, backing down. You're right. I must have miscounted. I'm sorry for the confusion. He left without taking the money. Claire stood there, still holding her $20 out to empty air, confusion and relief washing over her face in equal measure. Then she returned the $11 to her wallet and went back to work. Thomas left immediately, his heart hammering in a way his doctors would have scolded him for. He sat in his car for 10 minutes, making notes on his phone, then made a call to his attorney. Gerald? Thomas, I need you to draft an addendum to my will. No, not tomorrow, today. Yes, I'm aware of what I'm asking, just do it. 6 months became 8 months became 10 months. The doctors were surprised. Thomas wasn't. He'd found something worth sticking around for, even if just a little longer. He never returned to Martha's Diner. Instead, he had his investigators check on Claire monthly. She was a single mother, they discovered, with a 9-year-old daughter named Sophie. She'd been working at the diner for 7 years, picking up every extra shift she could. She was 2 classes away from an associate degree in nursing that she'd been chipping away at for 5 years. She'd had it in reach once, but her ex-husband had cleaned out their bank account and disappeared, leaving her with debt and a daughter and dreams deferred. She was, the investigators reported, universally regarded as the kindest person anyone knew. She gave away nearly as much money as she earned, helping co-workers with car troubles, slipping 20s to customers who came up short, donating to every school fundraiser and church charity. She volunteered at a soup kitchen on her rare days off. She was also drowning in medical debt from her daughter's bout with pneumonia 2 years prior. In other words, Claire was exactly who she'd appeared to be that Tuesday morning. Someone good in a world that didn't make goodness easy. Thomas Whitmore died on a Thursday afternoon in May, with spring rain pattering against the window of his private hospital room. He was surrounded by his children, who managed to look both grief-stricken and eager. They'd been patient. The will would be read tomorrow. The reading took place in Gerald Morrison's downtown office, all mahogany and leather-bound books. Thomas's 3 children sat in a row, dressed in expensive black, trying to look solemn. They'd been doing math in their heads for months. The estate was worth $2, $3 billion, divided 3 ways, accounting for taxes. Gerald cleared his throat. Your father made some changes in the final year of his life. The children leaned forward. To my children, Gerald read, I leave $10 million each, along with the family properties in Connecticut and Maine. I trust this is sufficient to maintain your lifestyles. $30 million combined, out of $3 billion. The children's faces went slack with shock, then hard with anger. The remainder of the estate, Gerald continued, approximately $2. $27 billion after taxes and expenses, goes to the Whitmore Foundation, which I have established to provide educational scholarships and healthcare assistance to working families. The foundation will be run by its first recipient and director, Claire Martinez. Who the hell is Claire Martinez? Thomas's eldest son demanded. Gerald slid a photograph across the desk, Claire in her faded blue uniform, holding a coffee pot, smiling at someone off camera. A waitress, Gerald said simply. Your father met her once. He left her a $5 tip. He didn't explain the test. He didn't explain the months of investigation. He only read Thomas's final letter, which concluded, I spent my life building wealth through ruthlessness. I find I'd rather leave the world with one example of kindness rewarded beyond measure. To my children, you have more than enough. To Claire, You have enough heart for all of us. Use it well." The children threatened to contest. They lawyered up, as Thomas had known they would. But the will was airtight, and Gerald had documented every legal requirement. When Gerald finally reached Claire, finding her at the diner, mid-shift, smelling of coffee and bacon grease, she didn't believe him at first. Then she cried. Then she laughed. Then she asked if she could finish her shift because the other waitress had called in sick, and Martha would be short-staffed. Gerald waited in a booth, ordered pie, and watched Claire work until the lunch rush ended. Only then did she take off her apron for the last time, hug Martha until the old woman's bones creaked, and walk out into a future she'd never dared imagine. She kept the apron. Years later, when the Whitmore Foundation had put thousands of kids through college and covered millions in medical bills, she kept it in her office as a reminder: character isn't tested in boardrooms or on stages. It's tested in dingy diners at 8:15 a.m. on a Tuesday, when no one is watching and honesty costs you money you desperately need. Thomas Whitmore had left a $5 tip, but Claire's integrity had rewritten his will and changed countless lives in the process.